love, pain, truth.
The sun was shining brightly over the university campus, but for Kiana, it felt like a gray day. She walked quickly, her head down, clutching her worn backpack straps tight against her shoulders. The campus was beautiful, with old brick buildings and green lawns filled with students laughing and talking in groups. Everyone looked like they belonged here. They wore expensive jackets, held tall cups of coffee from the fancy cafe nearby, and walked with a confidence that Kiana admired but couldn't seem to find in herself. Kiana was different, and she knew it. She was here on a scholarship, a fact she was proud of but also terrified of. While most of the other students came from wealthy families who could easily afford the high tuition, Kiana came from a family where every penny was counted twice. Her parents worked hard, multiple jobs, just to keep the lights on at home. Kiana didn't have the latest phone or the trendy sneakers that everyone else seemed to be wearing. Her clothes were simple, bought from discount stores and often mended carefully by her mother. When they started to fray, she had just finished a long morning shift at the diner located a few blocks away. Her feet ached from standing for 6 hours serving pancakes and coffee to people who didn't even look her in the eye. She was tired, hungry, and just wanted to find a quiet spot to eat her lunch before her next class began. She wasn't asking for much, just a moment of peace. Kiana found an empty bench near the large fountain in the center of the quad. It was a little noisy, but it was the best she could do. She sat down, letting out a long, tired breath. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small plastic container. It wasn't a fancy meal, just some leftover pasta she had cooked the night before. To Kiana, though, it was a feast. It meant she wouldn't be hungry for the rest of the afternoon. As she opened the container, the smell of tomato sauce and garlic filled the air. It was a comfort smell. But just as she picked up her plastic fork, a shadow fell over her. Kiana didn't need to look up to know who it was. She knew that laugh, a high-pitched, mocking sound that had haunted her for the last few weeks. It was Clarissa. Clarissa was the kind of person who lit up a room when she walked in, but not in a good way. She demanded attention. She was tall, always dressed perfectly, with her hair styled in ways that took hours to achieve. She walked around campus like she owned the pavement, flanked by her two best friends, Brianna and Tara. They were a package deal, wealthy, bored, and cruel. Well, Clarissa's voice rang out, loud enough for people nearby to hear. Look what we have here. It's the scholarship girl. Kiana's hand froze halfway to her mouth. She didn't want to engage. She knew from experience that fighting back only made it worse. She tried to focus on her pasta, pretending she hadn't heard them. I'm talking to you, Clarissa said, stepping closer. She nudged Kiana's backpack with the toe of her expensive boot, knocking it slightly off balance. Don't be rude. We're just saying hello. Brianna giggled, covering her mouth with her hand. Yeah, Kiana, that smells interesting. What is that? Dog food? Tara laughed, pulling out her phone. It looks like garbage. Why would you eat that in public? It's basically pollution. Kiana felt the heat rise in her cheeks. Her food was not garbage. It was lunch. She swallowed hard, her throat feeling dry. Please, Clarissa, Kiana said quietly. I just want to eat. I have class soon. Oh, she has class. Clarissa mocked, putting on a fake voice. She's so busy studying so she can actually be here. Isn't that adorable? Kiana tried to ignore them. She took a small bite, hoping they would get bored and leave. But they didn't leave. Instead, Clarissa moved closer, invading Kiana's personal space. The smell of Clarissa's strong perfume mixed with the smell of Kiana's tomato sauce, making Kiana feel dizzy. You know, Clarissa said, her voice dropping to a loud whisper. It's people like you who drag down the reputation of this school. We're supposed to be the elite, the future leaders. And then there's you with your plastic container. It's embarrassing, Brianna added. Honestly, I can't even look at it. The other students sitting on nearby benches were starting to notice. Some looked away, uncomfortable, but said nothing. Others whispered to each other, glancing over at the scene. Kiana felt like she was shrinking. She wished the ground would just open up and swallow her whole. She was trapped. If she left now, she would be running away and they would chase her. If she stayed, she had to endure this. "Just let me eat," Kiana said, a little louder this time. Her voice shook, but she tried to sound firm. Clarissa's eyes narrowed. She didn't like it when the help talked back. "You don't tell me what to do," she snapped. And then, with a sudden swift movement of her hand, she knocked the plastic container right out of Kiana's hands. Time seemed to slow down. The container flipped in the air, spilling red sauce and pasta all over Kiana's lap, the bench, and the ground. A splash of sauce hit Kiana's white shirt, leaving a bright, ugly stain right on her chest. For a second, there was total silence. Kiana looked down at her ruined shirt. She looked at the food scattered in the dirt. She felt the hot sauce soaking through her jeans, burning her skin slightly. Then the laughter started. Not just from Clarissa and her friends, but from a few other students who had been watching. It wasn't a kind laughter. It was the laughter of a pack of animals circling their prey. "Oops!" Clarissa shrieked, laughing so hard she had to hold on to Tara's shoulder for support. "My hand slipped. It must be the weight of this ring." Brianna was laughing too. "Oh my God, look at her shirt. That is never coming out. She looks like a toddler who can't use a fork." Kiana sat there, stunned. She felt tears pricking at the corners of her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "Not here, not in front of them." She quickly grabbed a napkin from her bag and tried to dab at the stain on her shirt, but it only smeared the red sauce, making it look worse. "Don't cry, little poor girl," Clarissa taunted. She pulled out her own phone, holding it up to record Kiana. "Smile for the camera. This is gold. Wait until I post this." Scholarship student loses her lunch in public. It's going to be viral. Tara and Brianna pulled out their phones too, forming a semicircle around Kiana. The bright camera lights blinded Kiana. She felt like she was under a spotlight in a prison interrogation room. "Stop it," Kiana whispered, her voice breaking. "Please delete that." "Delete it? Why?" Clarissa asked, keeping the camera rolling. "This is funny. Everyone needs a good laugh. Besides, maybe if you beg, I'll think about it." Kiana looked around desperately. The courtyard was full of people. Surely someone would help? Surely a teacher or a security guard or just a decent human being would walk by and tell them to stop. But nobody did. People walked faster, averting their eyes. They didn't want to get involved. They didn't want to become Clarissa's next target. Kiana was alone. The isolation hit her harder than the humiliation. She realized that in this moment, she was completely on her own against a world that seemed to enjoy watching her suffer. "Come on, give us a sad face for the thumbnail," Clarissa commanded, zooming in on Kiana's face. "Actually, look at the mess. It's disgusting. You're making the campus look dirty. Someone should clean this up. Clean it up. Clean it up. Clean it up." Brianna and Tara started chanting, clapping their hands in a rhythm. Kiana's hands were trembling violently. She bent down, not knowing what else to do, and started picking up the pieces of pasta from the dirty ground. She felt like a dog. She felt less than human. The laughter grew louder as they watched her pick up food from the dirt. "Look at her go," Clarissa narrated into her phone. "She's so hungry she's eating off the ground. This is the future of our country, folks." Kiana squeezed her eyes shut for a second, blocking out the lights, the laughter, and the cruel faces. She just wanted to disappear. She wished she had never applied to this school. She wished she was back in her small bedroom, safe and invisible. The weight of their hatred was crushing her chest, making it hard to breathe. She was drowning in a sea of ridicule, and there was no lifeguard in sight. The humiliation was absolute, painting her soul as darkly as the sauce stained her clothes. The laughter echoed in Kiana's ears, like a bad song she couldn't turn off. She kept her head down, her fingers scraping against the rough concrete as she picked up the cold, sticky mess of pasta. She could feel the eyes of everyone in the courtyard boring into her back. It felt like a nightmare where you try to run but your legs won't move. Her jeans were ruined, her shirt stained, and her spirit was broken. Clarissa was still hovering over her, the light on her phone camera glowing bright, capturing every second of Kiana's degradation. "Come on, get it all," Clarissa sneered, her voice full of fake cheerfulness. "Don't waste a single bite. We wouldn't want you to starve." Her friends Brianna and Tara were giggling so hard they were snorting, clearly enjoying the show. They felt powerful. They felt like queens of the campus, and Kiana was just their jester. Kiana squeezed her eyes shut, fighting back the tears that threatened to spill over. She told herself to breathe. Just breathe. And this would be over soon. But deep down, she felt a dark hole opening up inside her. She felt worthless. She felt like maybe they were right. Maybe she didn't belong here. Maybe she was just a joke. Suddenly, the rhythm of the chanting changed. It wasn't smooth anymore. It faltered. A new sound cut through the noise, sharp, rhythmic clicking on the pavement. It was the sound of high heels, but not the stumbling, drunk kind of heels students wore on weekends. These were confident, measured clicks. Clack, clack, clack. Kiana didn't look up. She thought it was just another student coming to watch the show. Maybe a professor walking by who would just shake his head and keep walking. She was used to being disappointed by adults, but the clicking stopped right in front of her. A shadow fell over Kiana, blocking out the sun. And then, a pair of elegant, high-heeled boots stepped right into the pile of spilled pasta, deliberately smearing it into the pavement. Clarissa's laughter died in her throat. "Hey! Watch where you're... Put the phone away." The voice was calm. It wasn't loud, but it carried a weight that made the air around them feel heavy. It was a voice used to being obeyed. Kiana froze. She slowly looked up from the ground. Standing between her and Clarissa was a woman who looked like she had stepped out of a fashion magazine, but with the stern look of a headmaster. She looked to be in her late 30s, wearing a tailored dark coat that looked expensive, with a silk scarf tied perfectly around her neck. She had sharp, intelligent eyes that were currently locked onto Clarissa's face. Clarissa blinked, confused. She lowered her phone slightly but didn't put it away. She was used to talking her way out of trouble. "Excuse me?" Clarissa asked, putting on her sweet, innocent voice. "We're just filming a video for our project. Right, guys?" Brianna and Tara nodded quickly, though they looked nervous. They could feel the shift in the atmosphere. The woman in the boots didn't buy it for a second. "I didn't ask what you were doing," the woman said, taking a step closer to Clarissa. She was taller than Clarissa, and she used her height to lean over the student, intimidating her without touching her. "I told you to put the phone away. Now." The crowd that had been laughing went silent. The wind seemed to stop blowing. Everyone was watching this new woman. She radiated a kind of power that Clarissa couldn't match. "Or what?" Clarissa tried to sound tough, crossing her arms. "It is a free campus. I can film whatever I want. You're not a professor." The woman let out a short, cold laugh. "No, I am not a professor." "You're right about that." She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a leather card holder. She flipped it open and held it up so close to Clarissa's face that the girl had to lean back. "Read it." Clarissa squinted at the card. Her face went from pink to pale white in a second. Her mouth opened slightly, but no sound came out. "Do you see the logo?" the woman asked, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "Do you see the title? I am the vice president of the Alumni Association. This university runs on the money I help raise. The dean of students is having dinner at my house tonight. So let me ask you again. Do you want to tell me what I can and cannot do on my campus?" Clarissa's hand was shaking so much she nearly dropped her phone. The arrogance vanished instantly, replaced by pure panic. She knew exactly what that card meant. It meant expulsion. It meant her parents finding out. It meant her future, which she cared about more than anything, was in danger. I didn't know. Clarissa stammered, her voice small and pathetic. Now delete the video, the woman commanded. She didn't shout, but her tone was like steel. Every second of it. I want to see you delete it. And if I find out you saved a copy or sent it to anyone, I will make it my personal mission to ensure you never step foot on this campus again. Clarissa's fingers fumbled over the screen. She was sweating. I'm deleting it. I'm deleting it. Please, I'm sorry. Sorry? The woman raised an eyebrow. You weren't sorry 2 minutes ago. You were laughing. You were kicking her food. We were just joking. Tara piped up from the side, trying to defend her friend. It was just a prank. The woman turned her sharp gaze to Tara. Tara shut up immediately, looking down at her shoes. Humiliating someone isn't a prank. It's cruelty. And it's ugly. It reflects poorly on the school, and it reflects poorly on your upbringing. She looked back at Clarissa. Is it gone? Yes, Clarissa whispered, holding up the phone to show the empty trash folder. It's gone. Good, the woman said. She took a deep breath and looked around at the circle of students who were watching. And the rest of you, standing there watching this happen like it's entertainment? You should be ashamed of yourselves. This is a place of learning, not a Roman Colosseum. The students looked away, ashamed. The woman didn't waste any more words on them. She turned around, her coat swirling, and knelt down on one knee right next to Kiana. The movement was so graceful that it didn't seem strange that a woman in such expensive clothes was kneeling on dirty pavement. Kiana looked up, her eyes wide. She was still trembling. She didn't know what to say. Thank you, she whispered, her voice cracking. The woman smiled, and this time, her face softened completely. She didn't look scary anymore. She looked like a protector. She reached out and gently touched Kiana's shoulder. Don't thank me, honey. I just did what anyone with a heart should have done. She reached into her purse and pulled out a pack of wet wipes. Here, let's get you cleaned up. That sauce looks like it stains. Kiana took the wipe, her hands still shaking. I messed up my shirt. It was the only nice one I have. The woman frowned, looking at the red stain. Nonsense. It's just a shirt. It can be cleaned or replaced. What matters is that you're okay. I'm not okay, Kiana admitted, a tear finally rolling down her cheek. She couldn't hold it back anymore. They hate me. They hate me because I'm poor. They've been doing this for weeks. The woman's expression darkened again, but she kept her voice soothing for Kiana. They don't hate you. They are just empty, unhappy people who need to crush others to feel tall. It says nothing about you and everything about them. Clarissa and her friends were still standing there, awkwardly shifting their weight, unsure if they should run or stay. Leave, the woman said without turning around. She didn't need to look. The command was clear. Can we go? Clarissa asked timidly. Go. Before I remember that I have the dean's private line in my contact list, the woman replied. That was all the warning they needed. Clarissa, Brianna, and Tara turned and practically ran away, disappearing into the nearest building as fast as their legs could carry them. They didn't look back. They were terrified. The courtyard was quiet now. The tension that had been choking the air had dissolved. People started walking again, pretending they hadn't been staring. But the dynamic had shifted. They looked at Kiana with sympathy now, or maybe with respect for surviving the storm. The woman stood up and extended a hand to Kiana. Come on. Let's get you off this dirty ground. Kiana took the hand. It was warm and firm. She pulled herself up, brushing off her knees. She felt a little wobbly, like she had just gotten off a roller coaster. My name is Diana, the woman said. And I'm very sorry I wasn't here sooner. Kiana, she replied softly. I'm Kiana. Diana looked at the girl, really looked at her. She saw the resilience in her eyes, despite the tears. She saw the stain on the shirt, the cheap shoes, and the weariness in her posture. But she also saw intelligence. She saw a girl who was fighting a hard battle and refusing to surrender. "You're a student here, Kiana?" Diana asked. "Yes, first year." "Engineering major," Kiana said, wiping her nose with the back of her hand. "Engineering," Diana repeated, nodding with approval. "That's not easy. It takes guts. You're going to need that grit." Kiana looked down at her ruined lunch on the ground. "I guess I'm going to be hungry for my next class." Diana smiled, a mischievous glint returning to her eyes. "Nonsense. I was on my way to a meeting at the faculty club, but that can wait." "I'm buying you lunch." "A real lunch. Somewhere with a table and chairs, and definitely no bullies allowed." Kiana shook her head quickly. "Oh no, I couldn't. You've already done so much." "I don't have any money to pay you back." "I don't want your money, Kiana," Diana said, linking her arm through Kiana's in a friendly, motherly way. "I want to hear about this engineering degree. And I want to make sure you eat something that doesn't come from a plastic container. Consider it an investment in the future." Diana steered Kiana away from the bench, away from the spilled pasta and the memory of the humiliation. As they walked across the quad, heads turned. Students whispered, pointing at the intimidating woman in the coat and the quiet student walking beside her. But for the first time all day, Kiana didn't feel like hiding. She walked a little taller. She wasn't the victim anymore. She was walking with a lion, and for the first time, she felt safe. The faculty club was a world away from the noisy courtyard where Kiana had just been humiliated. It was quiet, filled with the smell of polished wood and roasted coffee. Kiana sat in a plush leather chair, feeling a little out of place. She was still conscious of the stain on her shirt. But Diana had draped her own expensive cashmere sweater over Kiana's shoulders to hide it. A waiter placed a plate of steaming food in front of Kiana. It wasn't leftover pasta. It was a fresh, hot meal with vegetables and chicken, the kind of meal Kiana usually only saw on TV. For a moment, she just stared at it. Her stomach growled loudly, reminding her that she hadn't actually eaten anything yet. "Eat," Diana said gently, sipping her tea. "You need fuel for that brain of yours." Kiana took a bite, and it tasted like heaven. But as the food settled, the reality of the last hour came crashing back. She put her fork down, her appetite suddenly replaced by a wave of anxiety. "I can't afford this," Kiana blurted out, her voice low. "The food, the tip. I don't have enough cash on me. I can pay you back, but I'll need to wait until my next paycheck from the diner." Diana smiled, shaking her head slowly. "Kiana, look at me. This lunch is on me. It's a gift. You don't owe me anything." "But why?" Kiana asked, her eyes searching Diana's face. "You don't know me. I'm just a student. Why did you step in?" "Nobody else did." Diana leaned back in her chair, looking out the window at the campus green. "Because I used to be you," she said softly. 30 years ago, I sat on that same campus. I had a scholarship, worn-out shoes, and a target on my back. I was humiliated by girls just like Clarissa. And back then, nobody stepped in. I had to fight through it alone. I promised myself that if I ever got into a position where I could help someone else, I would. Kiana felt a lump in her throat. It was hard to imagine that this powerful, confident woman ever felt small. "That was the past," Diana continued, turning her attention back to Kiana. "I'm interested in your future. You mentioned you're studying engineering. That's a tough field. Why did you choose it?" Kiana's eyes lit up for the first time that day. "I want to build things," she explained. "Bridges. Safe water systems. I grew up in a town where the infrastructure was failing. I want to be the person who fixes problems like that." Diana listened intently, nodding. "Problem solver. We need more of those." She reached into her bag and pulled out a sleek business card. She slid it across the table. "I run a firm that does exactly that kind of work. We have a summer internship program. It's paid and it includes housing. It's usually reserved for students with perfect grades and connections. But I think you have something better than connections. You have grit. Kiana picked up the card. It was heavy with raised gold lettering. You're offering me a job? I'm offering you a chance, Diana corrected her. You have to email me your transcript by Friday. If your grades are as good as your determination, you're in. Kiana held the card like it was made of gold. For the first time in her life, she felt seen. Not seen as the poor girl or the charity case, but as a future engineer. I won't let you down, she promised, her voice steady. I know you won't, Diana said. The next few weeks on campus were strange. The incident in the courtyard had become the hottest topic of gossip, but the story had changed. It wasn't about Kiana spilling her lunch anymore. It was about the day Clarissa messed with the wrong girl and got shut down by a powerful alumna. Clarissa tried to act like it was no big deal at first. She told people that the woman was crazy, that she was just a random old lady. But everyone knew the truth. The story spread that Clarissa had been recorded bullying a scholarship student, and that a member of the board of trustees had personally intervened. The social climate shifted. Brianna and Tara stopped sitting with Clarissa at lunch. They didn't want to be guilty by association. Other students, who used to laugh at Clarissa's jokes, now found her annoying. Her popularity evaporated overnight. She walked the hallways alone, her head held high, but her eyes looked nervous. She had learned a hard lesson. Actions have consequences. For Kiana, life changed in a different way. She emailed Diana that night. By Monday, she had an interview. By the end of the month, she had the internship. The summer was a whirlwind of hard work. Kiana lived in the city, far from the campus and her old worries. She wore a badge around her neck that gave her access to skyscrapers and construction sites. She used her hands and her brain, solving real problems. She used her first paycheck to buy a new pair of sturdy, waterproof work boots that made her feel capable. She also sent money home to her parents, which was the proudest moment of her life. When fall arrived and Kiana returned to campus for her second year, she walked differently. She didn't slouch. She didn't look at the ground. She wore her new boots and a jacket she had bought herself. One afternoon, she walked past the fountain where the whole thing had happened. She saw Clarissa sitting on a bench nearby. Clarissa looked tired. Her clothes still looked expensive, but she seemed smaller, quieter. When Clarissa saw Kiana, she quickly looked away, grabbing her bag and moving in the opposite direction. Kiana didn't feel angry. She didn't feel the need to gloat. She just felt free. The fear that had gripped her heart was gone. She realized that those girls had never actually had power over her. They only had the power she gave them by believing their lies. Now, she knew the truth. She was strong. She was smart. And she was going somewhere. She walked into the engineering building, her steps echoing in the hallway. She had a meeting with her professor to discuss a new project. She sat down in the front row, opening her notebook. She wasn't the invisible girl anymore. Later that evening, her phone buzzed. It was a text from Diana. Just checking in. How is the bridge design coming along? Kiana smiled and typed back a reply. It's going great. I think I found a way to strengthen the support beams. Thank you again. Diana replied instantly. You found the way, Kiana. I just opened the door. Kiana put the phone down and looked out her dorm window at the campus lights. There were thousands of students out there, some struggling, some confident, some lonely. She hoped that if she ever saw someone in trouble, she would be brave enough to step in, just like Diana had done for her. The humiliation in the courtyard had felt like the end of the world that day. It had felt like a dark cloud that would never lift. But it turned out to be just a storm. Storms are scary when you are in the middle of them, but they always pass. And sometimes, if you are lucky, they wash away the things that were holding you back, leaving you with a clearer path to walk on. Kiana picked up her pen and started drawing. She had a future to build, and nobody was going to stop her this time.